Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at ASML Holding. We're going to be looking at the company. We're going to be diving into the charts, the PE, at least some outline basic stuff about the company from an investment perspective, just to see if this is a company you're interested in. I'm going to share some of my insights, what I think about the company and whatnot. Also, I mentioned investment, but I generally look at things from an investment perspective instead of a trading perspective. But hopefully, you'll be able to pick up stuff from this video, even if you are more on the trading side, right? So, whenever I look at a company for the first time, I'm going to approach this like minimal about the company, although you probably know a decent amount, right? So, I like to look at the 1-year chart. 43% is phenomenal. The 5-year, all right, and then the all-time, right? Just see if anything sticks out. And the first thing that sticks out is wow, 44,000. I mean, and they've only been public since 95 too, so that is insane growth. But also, I like to look at more like the 10-year, right? This doesn't offer a 10-year feature, but 2014. I mean, even if we took highs from 2014, I think 109, right? 109 to now, that is nearly. I mean, it's not quite 8x, but that's pretty close. Sorry, I cracked my knuckles there. I apologize. I just did that out of habit. And it also pays a 1% dividend as well. I don't know if it did the entire time, but even 1% dividend on top of this insane growth, right? So you can see here 43% PE. Sorry, I kind of highlighted a bunch. 43% PE is high, but I mean for the growth rate, that's not that surprising, right? The implied growth rate, and that's, I mean, it's theoretical. This company was just insanely overvalued and then caught up. Although I'm pretty sure that's not the case. Although that can happen, right? So I like to look at PE and forward PE to get the quote-unquote full picture. It's not the full picture, but it gives you a better idea because oftentimes things can be hidden in PE. For example, if you just looked at the PE of AMD, you would see 200. But if you saw the forward PE, you'd actually see something right around these numbers in the 40s. So people get tax breaks, or they have a really bad quarter, or maybe something just in the entire sector is off. So yeah, you always got to look at things even deeper than this, but this is a good baseline for, understanding if this is a company you're interested in. So yeah, PE of 44, forward PE of 40, and that sounds extreme, and don't get me wrong, it is high, right? But for a tech company, certainly a tech company that's just been on a tear, I mean, even since 2010, oh my gosh, 2009. I mean, you just keep going back. Basically, since the 2000s, it's just been on an absolutely insane run. And if we see from a little bit from the upcoming earnings projections, it's supposed to keep going. So, anyways, you might have no idea what ASML does, right? So, I'm here to tell you by reading this, right? So, some of these Schwab company or business summaries are actually, I think, really bad, but this one does a pretty good job. So we're just going to read. ASML Holding develops, produces, markets, sells, services advanced semiconductor equipment. If you don't know what semiconductor equipment, that's just computer stuff, right? I assume most of you do, but just in case you don't. Systems for chip makers. It offers advanced semiconductor equipment systems, including lithography, metrology, inspection systems. The company provides extreme ultraviolet lithography systems and deep ultraviolet lithography systems comprising immersion and dry lithography solutions, blah, blah, blah. Now we're getting a bit in the weeds here. You may be like, okay, what the heck does that mean? Clearly they're making money. So my understanding, right, and always do your own research, but my understanding is ASML provides basically, so NVIDIA, right, amazing company, blowing things out, blowing earnings out of the water. AI chips, everyone wants them, can't get enough of them, right? There is a company that provides a lot of the blueprint for them, and that is TSM, right? I've covered it on this channel if you don't know about them. They're also obviously not as good as NVIDIA profit margin, but they make a lot of the blueprint, the semiconductors that NVIDIA uses, that AMD uses, that Intel uses, companies like that, right? This ASML is the step before that. Summarizing it basically, right? They provide the systems that TSM and theoretically Intel and other chip makers use to make their semiconductors, right? So you can understand how that is very beneficial. And my understanding is ASML does it top of the line, right? I mean, one thing I didn't look at is market cap, 329 billion. Obviously, there's still room for growth here. But this is not a small company, not anything near it, right? One thing I didn't see is where they are based out of. I believe, ASML Holding was founded in 1984, literally 1984, guys, and is headquartered in Veldhoven, the Netherlands. So they are a European company, right? Nothing inherently wrong with European companies other than generally over the long term, U.S. companies usually outperform the best. I'm biased, right? I'm United States, but I mean, look at the top 10 companies in the world, right? I mean, Alibaba was up there for a while. They're nowhere near that now. Generally, U.S. companies, at least over the last, historically, they've dominated over the last 100, but even if you look at the last 30, it's even more so profound. So that is slightly concerning. Is that concerning enough to be like, sometimes you just have to look at the company itself, right? And this company is they are just winning, right? Also, now if we're going to dive a bit into what I'm seeing, right, in these charts, let's go back to the 5-year. So it peaked in 2021 around 850, 875 if we're talking peak, 888 even. Obviously during lows, actually it did pretty well in 2023. Many of TSM, AMD were down even lower in 2023 as well. But they peaked at around what looks like 1,110, right? It's currently at 832. I'm no math expert, but just spitballing, right? 832 times 1.225-ish, 25% off all-time highs, even more so than 25% off all-time highs. Yeah, 30% off all-time highs, basically. So that is as an investor, right? If a company, there's nothing wrong with investing all-time highs. Usually I would prefer to DCA in near all-time highs, depending on the PE of the stock, right? The PE of the stock it was in the 50s, I saw it in the 50s. Honestly, I haven't been looking at it that recently, and just seeing this, basically for PE in the 30s, and you could be like, yeah, that is extreme, but it's not that bad for a great company, right? A company that's for the last 15 years, 10 years has just been destroying it. They've been doing you cannot, other than unless you're betting on penny stocks to just, 100x, 200, 1,000x, right? You can't expect more from a company. Guys, this is insane. There are very few charts you can find that are this good over the last 15 years. Nvidia, I bet, is one, right? So 8x, I bet Nvidia is close to 8x during that time as well. We're not going to look at it today. You guys all know. But yeah, this is in my opinion, right? I usually put money into the stock market about every 3 months. I was eyeing some other companies. I'm going to talk about them later. Doing this video, doing research for it, right? Looking at it beforehand. I'm going to buy ASML. I've decided. I wasn't planning on it, but this is great. This is a great entry for a great company. Now, when I say that, people might be like, oh, you think it's going to go up? Of course I think it's going to go up. When it's going to go up, I do not know. I cannot predict the future, right? It may run sideways for a year. It may go down to 500, right? I don't expect it to do that, right? Or else I would be waiting for a 500. But I would just DCA and lower unless they just start doing poorly, right? They've beat the last 3 quarters and actually pretty substantially. This isn't 24 is not as much, 47, but when you're expected 30, that's a 10% beat, right? That's a 8% beat. That's also probably close to an 8% beat. That's not as dramatic, but they're beating. And this is, projection. To be fair, sometimes these are analysts. Sometimes these are their own saying. I know some companies like TSM and AMD set their own expectations, where Tesla, at least in their last earnings statement I read, doesn't. So I don't know 100%, right? But it seems like whoever we're basing this off of, they beat. I'm not saying they're going to beat till the end of time. I'm sure they'll miss eventually, but this is, in my opinion, a great entry point, right? Like, there's not much more you can expect, right? It could go lower, but you can't count on that, you know? I don't want my money sitting on the sidelines hoping for the perfect entry. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you do, but then scan the stocks and find that one, right? But if you like this company and you're looking for a good entry point, this is one. Like I said, it could run sideways for a year or 2 or 3 or even 4, but I usually aim for the 3 to 5, right? And if it is sideways, it's probably PE is dramatically lower, and that means either A, you can keep DCAing in, maybe it's too much, but either way, you've made some progress. That's how I like to view stocks, right? I bought TSM. I love TSM. TSM is my favorite company. I have a video on it. I bought TSM. I bought it right about here. I bought it like 120 a share, early 2021, right? I wrote it sideways. I wrote it up to 140, whatever. And then I was down on it for 3 years. I was down on it up until this year. And I kept all the shares. I bought a few more. I didn't buy as much as I wish because I just didn't have the capital. But it's hit 190. I've sold a little bit. I still love the company. Actually, I don't think I really sold any. I sold some and then I bought more because I just love it so much. But this may be one of those. But if this company keeps succeeding like they have been, if the AI booms anything like we expect it to be, actually, one thing I read from TSM, a little tidbit, right, is TSM was actually a little pissed at ASML. They basically said, ASML charged us more than we would like for these machines, but what are we going to do about it? We have to buy them. which I mean, you'd prefer ASML, I guess. I would, as an investor, prefer ASML to not try and piss off too many clients. I'm sure they're fine. But when you have that kind of leverage as a company, that is great. And they don't have a full monopoly. Maybe they do. I mean, usually when you're a company of this size, you know, even if you are a monopoly, as long as you don't abuse it like a monopoly, you kind of get overlooked because what else are you going to do? Yeah, well, we just need to help the other companies to do it. Meanwhile, they're 5 years behind, have 1/1000th of the capital, and it's complicated. But anyways, let's look at some risks. I've just been gushing over this company, right? I love the space. I give it an A+. I love the success they've had, and future success is never, you can never go on what happened in the past and say, oh yeah, it's 100% going to happen, but it's still the best predictor for future success, right? Companies that are just getting destroyed usually do. Now they sometimes turn it around, it happens. But anyways, some of the risks I see. I mean, it is a company that, they give it a really good ESG score. I usually don't see them that high. I don't particularly care, but that's something. They give it, I don't know why they always got to be fancy, but this is basically a scale of 1 to 10, right? So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I don't know why I started at 0. So they give the country a 7, which I would agree with, right? You know, I'm sure America's the 10. You know, I think Taiwan's actually just as much as well. So for TSM, it's the same. Yeah, like I said earlier in the video, Europe, in terms of just dominant companies, America is king at building them. It is fact. It is true as of recent. That does not mean you can't have any European companies because I like it, but you have to factor it into the full picture, right? You know, if you do not care one iota, disregard it, right? If you factor it in like I do, it's one of, 10, 20, 30, 40 factors you have in, and you weigh it in. So maybe it matters, but to me, this is not a big deal, right? I would prefer it to be American, but it doesn't really matter all that much. Let's look at some other risks. If the entire market goes down, recession, right? Huge companies are laying off, not spending as much on AI. That is a big risk. It is tech, so it is perceived as more risky. That's risky. It is high PE, so in the event that there is a major recession, this will probably get hit harder than something like a financial institution, assuming it's not financial institutions that were hit like in '08, right? something of lore, or like Campbell's soup. Maybe that's better. That's a non-controversial thing. I'm sure many of you who are around during '08, you don't view that as the safe thing as financial institutions, but something like Campbell's soup or Procter and Gamble. What's going to get harder in a huge recession? Something that sells, someone that sells Campbell's soup and Kraft mac and cheese, toothpaste, or someone that sells high-end equipment for AI, chips. Even if they were to do just as good or better, just make that assumption, the market perceives things. Excuse me. The market perceives things. For example, AMD was viewed as high risk down when this happened in 2022. They fell substantially because they're viewed as a company that's higher growth, higher debt, things like that. AMD had basically no debt. You could look on it, no debt. But it was being treated like a company that was higher risk, even though they were completely profitable, just because that was the perception. Same thing, you can even get it in sports betting, I don't know. I'm not going to dive into it, but just because I don't think it's necessary this time. But those are some risks you have to factor in. Are there more? I'm certain. I can't think of them off the top of my head, right? Let's take a look at some analysts and then wrap this up. Schwab gives it a C over the next year. I would put this a bit higher, although, like I said, I am not a person that is a trader. I have no idea how this will perform in the next year. I have a good idea that this stock is going to perform well over the next 5 to 7 years, 3 to 7 years. It's going to grow. Chips aren't going away. TSM's going to need them. Like this, even if TSM were to explode tomorrow, there's going to be another company to step up that needs chips like this. Obviously, ASML will go down. I'm not saying that. Economic moat wide, absolutely. They have basically a stranglehold on the market, right? 4-star by Morningstar in that. 5-star by Avoid. I'm curious what that is. Some of these, I need to do better research on these because some of these are short term, some of these are long term, and they just, unless I read it, don't. You get a great ESG score. Take that as you will. I'm not going to dive into it, and those of you who know what ESG is may understand why. Let's take a look at some analysts on this. I often forget to look at this page. Interesting. I usually don't see this there. Obviously, we know the beats. So analysts are saying there's a lot less analyst recommendations. Oh, October just started a couple days ago. That's why. Most people say buy. There's a few holds, right? But it's generally smaller. If you take big stock and analysts, look at this price target is substantially higher than the current is. Like we did the math, that's 30% up. So they think there's 30% upside. Anyways, I'm going to wrap. I like this company. I do not currently own any. I'm not just blowing smoke up them. You can watch other videos. Watch my NO video. I got my first ever comments on this channel. First 2 were hate comments. So I don't care. I'm going to say what I believe. And I'm trying to be fully transparent here, right? I like the stock. The timing's well where I'm putting money in the market very soon, and there will be money in this stock, I guarantee you, for me. I don't know how you could hope that it goes much better. Just this, personally, right? If whatever you think of that, whatever you think of this video, let me know in the comments section. If you made it this far, that's awesome. If you leave a like or a comment or whatever it may be. This is a brand new channel. I'm trying to get it jump started. I just like talking about stocks. If you like talking about stocks, all kinds of stocks, bank stocks, tech stocks, whatever it may be, I think this is the channel for you. Anyway, I'm sure this is probably the longest video I've recorded. So if you, like I said, if you enjoyed it, leave a like or comment. But anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. So I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys later.